There's a lot of talk out there about narcissists, how they manipulate, how they dominate, how they leave a trail of damage in their wake. But we rarely talk about what happens when the person they try to control is someone they can't quite break. Someone who sees everything, someone who feels everything. I'm talking about the super empath. Now, let's be clear. This isn't about revenge. It's not about playing games or stooping to anyone's level. This is about power, real power, the kind that comes from self-awareness, emotional depth, and the ability to read people so well. It becomes impossible for manipulation to work. Because when a narcissist tries to play their usual game with a super empath, something shifts. The script flips. And suddenly, the person who's spent their life trying to control every room they walk into finds themselves exposed, frustrated, and powerless. Emotional intuition is often misunderstood. In a world that values logic, assertiveness, and control, the ability to feel deep lie is sometimes seen as a liability. For a super empath, emotional intuition is not only a strength, it's a weapon. It allows them to read a room without a word being spoken, to sense shifts in energy before anything is said out loud, and to pick up on the micro expressions, pauses, and inconsistencies that others overlook. This intuitive ability creates an immediate disadvantage for the narcissist who relies on deception, manipulation, and performance to maintain control. Where the narcissist seeks to control perception through charm, grandiosity, or guilt, the super empath instinctively sees beyond it. They're not just reacting to what is said, they're absorbing what isn't. The timing, the hesitation, the overcompensation, it all lands like data points in the empath's internal system. The narcissist, used to preying on emotionally unaware individuals, now finds themselves dealing with someone who feels their intent before it's even verbalized. That changes the dynamic instantly. The power imbalance they usually depend on is gone. This creates discomfort for the narcissist. Their usual tricks don't land. Their charm doesn't pull the same response. Their control tactics are subtly dodged, or worse, acknowledged without being named. The super empath doesn't need to attack or confront. Their presence alone makes the narcissist feel seen in a way that is deeply unsettling. It's like holding up a mirror to someone who's spent their whole life avoiding reflection. That mirror, made of insight, emotional awareness, and instinct, becomes torture for someone who thrives on illusion. And this isn't about a single moment of clarity. It's a slow, consistent unraveling. The empath's intuition catches patterns over time. They begin connecting dots the narcissist didn't even realize were visible. Lies don't add up. Behaviors contradict words. The energy shifts before the manipulation is even fully deployed. And the super empath, they stay calm, observant, and grounded. That calmness isn't passivity. It's precision. What makes emotional intuition especially powerful is that it doesn't need proof to validate its perception. It's not something the narcissist can debate or gaslight away. The empath might not even articulate what they know right away, but they know. That knowing shows up in how they respond, subtly pulling back, disengaging emotionally, or setting quiet boundaries that leave the narcissist scrambling. In a battle of control versus clarity, clarity always wins. The narcissist relies on confusion to dominate. Confusion of facts, emotions, and relationships. But the empath's emotional intuition cuts through that fog effortlessly. They sense the contradiction between words and energy. They feel the disconnect between intention and impact. They might not confront it directly, but their very presence challenges the narcissist's narrative. Boundaries are the super empath's silent revolution. While the narcissist thrives in blurred lines, emotional enmeshment, vague expectations, shifting roles, the super empath disrupts this chaos with clarity. Boundaries create structure, and structure is the one thing the narcissist can't manipulate without resistance. When an empath begins to define what they will and will not accept, the narcissist starts to lose control over the narrative they've carefully constructed. To a narcissist, control is everything. They rely on emotional access, knowing they can evoke guilt, confusion, or obligation whenever it suits them. But boundaries block that access. Suddenly, the narcissist's behaviors start to hit walls instead of open doors. The empath no longer feels responsible for managing the narcissist's moods or needs. They stop over-explaining, stop justifying, and most importantly, stop emotionally reacting in predictable ways. This unpredictability becomes a quiet form of resistance that the narcissist finds deeply frustrating. What made Dries so powerful is their consistency. The super empath doesn't need to shout, threaten, or argue. Their strength lies in calmly repeating the same response. No, I'm not available. That doesn't work for me. These phrases are simple, but they're backed by something the narcissist can't easily dismantle: self-worth. When an empath starts valuing their peace over the narcissist's approval, the dynamic shifts. The narcissist's attempts to manipulate are met with stillness instead of emotional chaos. There's no reaction to feed on, no confusion to exploit. Narcissists are skilled at testing boundaries, often subtly. They'll make small comments to push limits. They'll ignore a request to see if you reinforce it. They'll play the victim elicit guilt. But the super empath begins to see these patterns. With each test, they hold the line. And with each boundary held, the narcissist feels more exposed. Their need for dominance starts to feel obvious, even desperate. That desperation isn't something they want to show, but it begins to leak out when their tactics no longer work. There's a psychological unraveling that happens when a narcissist is forced to respect boundaries. It confronts their core belief that they are entitled to people's time, energy, and attention. When that entitlement is denied, not through conflict, but through calm detachment, it chips away at their false sense of superiority. The empath's boundary becomes more than a personal stance. It becomes a mirror reflecting the narcissist's inability to control. And control is where they feel safe. What confuses the narcissist most is that boundaries from a super empath don't come from a place of anger or clarity. There's no drama to latch onto, no emotional reaction to twist into a counterattack. It's just a steady line over and over again. That steadiness is foreign to someone who lives in extremes. The narcissist thrives when others react emotionally, whether it's fear, rage, or guilt. Radical empathy is not just about understanding someone else's emotions. It's about deeply perceiving their internal world without absorbing their dysfunction. For a super empath, this level of emotional intelligence allows them to see the narcissist in a way the narcissist never expected to be seen. They sense the deep insecurities buried beneath the arrogance, the unhealed wounds behind the control, the fear masked by manipulation. And because they understand it, they don't fear it. That's what makes radical empathy so powerful. It gives the super empath a kind of emotional X-ray vision, one that renders the narcissist's tactics ineffective. A narcissist operates through illusion. They present a carefully curated version of themselves and rely on others to buy into it. But when the super empath brings radical empathy into the dynamic, they're not interested in that surface performance. They're tuned into the emotional dissonance, the subtle cues that reveal the truth behind the mask. They know that control isn't confidence, that rage often hides shame, and that manipulation is usually a cover for deep emotional instability. This kind of insight unnerves the narcissist because it strips away their most powerful tool, misdirection. Empathy, when radical, doesn't mean enabling. It means acknowledging someone's pain without making it your responsibility. This distinction is what separates the super empath from those who get trapped in the narcissist's web. The super empath may feel the narcissist's internal struggle, but they refuse to carry it. They don't personalize the narcissist's projections. They don't internalize the blame. Instead, they reflect it back with a calm understanding that disarms and destabilizes. It's not cruelty. It's clarity wrapped in compassion. This clarity makes the narcissist deeply uncomfortable. They're used to controlling the emotional tone of every relationship. They thrive in environments where people overextend themselves to please, to fix, to understand. But when they meet someone who already understands them, sometimes better than they understand themselves, there's no space left for manipulation. The narcissist finds themselves exposed not through confrontation, but through emotional transparency. They're seen in their rawest form, and it feels like vulnerability, something they've spent their lives trying to avoid. What the narcissist doesn't anticipate is that being understood at such a profound level can feel like a threat, especially when that understanding isn't accompanied by control, fear, or neediness. The super empath doesn't try to fix them. They simply see them fully and clearly. That kind of attention is rare and confronting. It breaks through their defenses and leaves them emotionally naked. And because they can't twist it, overpower it, or escape it, they begin to unravel. Radical empathy also allows the super empath to remain grounded while the narcissist spirals. It provides emotional separation while maintaining connection. The empath can witness the narcissist's behavior without getting caught in the storm. This frustrates the narcissist even more because their usual chaos tactics don't work. Silence, in the hands of a super empath, becomes a powerful form of communication. It's not avoidance. And it's not passivity, it's intentional, deliberate, and deeply unsettling to a narcissist who thrives on emotional reaction. The narcissist is used to provoking responses, drawing people into arguments, guilt tripping, or baiting them into justifying themselves. But when the super empath chooses silence, the dynamic shifts. The narcissist loses their grip because they no longer control the emotional rhythm of the interaction. To the narcissist, silence is confusing. It creates a void where they expect drama. They're wired to feed on energy, positive or negative, as long as it keeps them at the center. Silence removes that energy. It doesn't give them anything to manipulate, nothing to twist, nothing to argue against. The empath's silence is not empty. It's full of awareness, boundaries, and refusal. It is a space that says, I see what you're doing and I'm not participating. This form of non-response is particularly powerful because it forces the narcissist to sit with themselves, something they spend their lives trying to avoid. The narcissist wants noise. They want confusion. They want an emotional mess to hide behind. Silence cuts through all of that. It holds up a mirror without saying a word. It lets the narcissist hear their own voice, see their own patterns, and feel their own discomfort without a scapegoat. For someone who depends on projecting blame and manipulating others into carrying their emotional weight, that's unbearable. Super empaths don't use silence to punish. They use it to reclaim space. It is a refusal to engage in toxic cycles. It's not the cold shoulder. It's emotional clarity. When a narcissist attacks, provokes, or gaslights, silence becomes the wall they can't climb. It keeps the empath in control of their energy and removes the narcissist's ability to script the interaction. The narcissist may try harder, escalating, mocking, guilt tripping. But the silence only amplifies the weakness of their tactics. Over time, this silence begins to unnerve the narcissist in ways they can't articulate. It challenges their sense of importance. It reveals their inability to provoke or control. And most importantly, it exposes their emotional immaturity. They are left reacting to their own chaos without a partner in the drama. The empath doesn't need to defend themselves, explain, or fight. Their silence does the talking. What adds even more weight to this silence is the empath's emotional presence. It's not a detached withdrawal. It's full awareness without engagement. The narcissist can feel that they are being observed, understood, and evaluated, even if nothing is said. That silent witnessing creates more pressure than words ever could. It leaves the narcissist exposed in their behavior without the usual distractions or deflections. Silence also breaks patterns. Narcissists rely on predictable emotional responses. They know what buttons to push, how to provoke a reaction, how to spin a narrative. But when the empath offers nothing, no anger, no tears, no pleading, the pattern collapses. Detachment is one of the most effective ways a super empath dismantles the narcissist's power. While empaths are naturally wired to connect, care, and emotionally engage, there comes a point in their evolution where they learn that connection without boundaries is a form of self-betrayal. When a super empath detaches, it doesn't mean they stop caring. It means they stop caring. They no longer allow the narcissist's chaos to define their emotional state, and that shift immediately begins to unravel the narcissist's influence. Narcissists feed off emotional enmeshment. They thrive in dynamics where their moods, needs, and manipulations take center stage. They want others to orbit around their sense of importance, whether through admiration or resistance. But emotional detachment strips them of that gravitational pull. The super empath starts to reclaim their energy, redirect their focus, and disengage from the drama that once pulled them in. This isn't indifference. It's emotional sovereignty. And for the narcissist, it's deeply threatening. When the empath detaches, they begin to respond from a place of observation rather than emotional entanglement. They see the patterns, they recognize the manipulation, but they don't get pulled into it. The narcissist might still try to provoke them using guilt, anger, or passive aggression, but the empath no longer feels the need to fix, explain, or defend. Their sense of self becomes anchored in something internal, not in the approval or emotional state of the narcissist. This inner shift makes the narcissist feel powerless because their usual levers no longer produce the expected outcome. Detachment also creates an emotional gap that the narcissist can't close. They are used to controlling the emotional tempo of their relationships. Ups, downs, crises, reconciliations. But when the empath no longer participates in that cycle, it exposes how much of it was engineered by the narcissist to begin with. The empath's calm refusal to engage becomes a disruption in the narcissist's sense of control. It forces them to confront their own emotional dependency on the empath's reactions. What makes detachment so impactful is its quiet nature. There are no grand declarations, no emotional confrontations. The super empath simply steps back, mentally, emotionally, sometimes physically. They take their power with them, not through anger, but through presence. That absence is felt more deep-lie than any argument could be. The narcissist begins to notice that they are no longer the center of attention. Their manipulations fall flat, and their provocations echo into silence, and their need for control goes unmet. The narcissist may respond to this detachment with panic or escalation. They may try to reassert dominance through charm, guilt, or even threats. But the empath's detachment acts as a filter. They see these tactics for what they are and don't take the bait. Their emotional neutrality becomes a shield. It's not numbness. It's clarity. It's the recognition that they can care without sacrificing themselves, love without losing themselves, and observe without absorbing. This level of detachment marks the end of the narcissist's emotional monopoly. They can no longer manipulate outcomes through confusion or obligation. The empath's energy is no longer available for exploitation. Truth, when delivered calmly, has the power to destabilize a narcissist more than rage, confrontation, or accusation ever could. A super empath understands this deeply. While others may try to shout over a narcissist's lies or engage in emotional tug of war, the super empath learns that truth, spoken without heat, lands with a weight that can't be deflected. There's no drama to dismiss, no emotional display to blame, just pure, grounded clarity. And that clarity is something the narcissist cannot handle. Narcissists are masters of creating alternate realities. They twist narratives, shift blame, and manipulate facts to serve their ego and maintain control. But when the super empath begins to speak truth, not from a place of pain, but from a place of insight, it disrupts that illusion. It's not just what's said, but how it's said. There's no pleading for understanding, no hope for validation. The truth stands on its own, unshaken, and it confronts the narcissist in the one way they aren't prepared for without emotional leverage. Calm truth removes the narcissist's favorite defense mechanisms. They can't accuse the empath of being hysterical or irrational. They can't claim misinterpretation or emotional instability. The empath speaks in facts, observations, and lived experience. Their voice doesn't shake. Their energy doesn't spike. And in that calm delivery, the narcissist hears something rare, undeniable accountability. It exposes the behavior without attacking the person. It highlights manipulation without engaging in retaliation. It creates a mirror that reflects not just what the narcissist has done, but what they refuse to acknowledge. This truth becomes a trigger because it confronts the narcissist's greatest fear, being truly seen, not adored, not feared, not envied, seen. Seen for the insecurity behind the arrogance, the fear behind the control, the pain behind the cruelty. And when that truth is laid bare without venom, it becomes impossible to deny. The empath's tone is neutral, but its impact is surgical. It cuts through the defense, the excuses, the gaslighting. There is no way to argue against what being reflected because the empath isn't playing the narcissist's game. What amplifies the impact even further is that the super empath often knows exactly when to speak the truth. They wait for the moment when the narcissist least expects it, after a manipulation attempt, in a quiet conversation during an attempt at reconciliation. And instead of feeding into the cycle, they calmly state what they've observed, what they've felt, and what they now understand. There's no demand for change, no bargaining, just truth. That quiet certainty is more disruptive than any fight. The narcissist may lash out in response. They may try to mock, belittle, or discredit the empath, but the calm truth lingers. It echoes after the words have been spoken. It lives in the silence that follows. The narcissist can't erase it because it wasn't spoken in emotional volatility. It was delivered with awareness that difference matters. It makes the truth harder to escape and impossible to unhear.